Welcome to the latest edition of the Giants Hangout, our weekly roundtable discussion as we recap the previous game, also look ahead to developments surrounding the New York Giants. Lance Meadow, Russ Salzberg, Howard Cross with you. A disappointing performance for Big Blue out in Vegas as they folded the Raiders 30-6. We're going to hit on three big themes. Unfortunately, the injury bug struck once again. Where the Giants go moving forward with the quarterback position because of multiple injuries at that spot, as well as some of the defensive struggles against the Raiders offense. So, Howard, I want to start with obviously the biggest news coming out of the game, and that was, of course, seeing the image of Daniel Jones go down on one knee on the very first play of the second quarter. We saw that he awkwardly went down on the previous play, the last play of the first quarter, and he had to then head back to the locker room. There are reports that it looks like it's probably a serious knee injury, but we're still waiting for confirmation from the team. But I think at this point, the Giants are operating with the idea that Daniel Jones, in all likelihood, will be a spectator moving forward. And it's unfortunate, Howard, because he just came back from this neck issue, which he missed 3 games. And then all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, the Giants now have to deal with being without their starting quarterback once again.
Yeah, I mean it's really bad. I mean, I feel bad for Daniel more than anything else. I think that he came back full of energy. You could tell in his warm-ups he looked healthy. You could tell also when he threw the first couple of passes, had a little extra juice on him that got out of his hand. But to step back with non-contact injury and go down, that's kind of been the theme of the NFL for the last couple of years, or last 5 or 6 years. These non-contact injuries, and by the way, on grass, not on turf. He just kind of caught his cleat, buckled his knee, and went down. Tried to run it off. He looked like he may be able to do it, but he was running forward. He wasn't really dropping back. The moment he dropped back and planted his foot, he went down again. So hopefully, it's not that bad, but it doesn't look good right now. So for the Giants, they got a lot to think about. If it's a serious injury, being so late in the year in November. The 1st of November, that'll mean that if it's something that requires a lot of surgery, how long it's going to take for him to get back. How healthy will he be when he gets back? Because running is a big part of his game. Can you trust when he gets back he'll be well enough to run and move around? Those are all kinds of questions they're going to be looking at over the next few days. And again, hopefully for Daniel, it's not as bad as he thinks or as bad as he thought, but we can only pray for him.
Yeah, I totally agree, Howard. It's as miserable as it looks, and it looks like gloom and doom. If you know a guy, I didn't play, Howard played, but if you know somebody and you know him fairly well, I mean, he's a class young man.
Mm-hmm.
You never want to see anybody injured, but he's had injury problems. He just comes off the neck injury, comes back. Everybody in the locker room was enthused this week. Everybody had a little more Getty up in their gait. You can tell Daniel, Saquon, everybody, they were fired up. And yeah, the first series was 3-0, but he connects with a home run ball that he was to Jalen Hyatt was just out of bounds. Another time Hyatt had his guy beat. It was kind of overthrown. I was feeling like good. There was something about it, but this injury, like I agree with Howard, you can only pray that it's not serious, but it certainly looks like everything points to like a torn ACL. And if that's the case, what Howard says is true. So then the question is, where do they go from there? To me, what was discouraging, you always wonder when you have an injury like that, what does it do to the morale of the team on the spot? Are they discouraged? Are they down, gloom and doom? This has been a Murphy's Law season. What could go wrong for the Giants has gone wrong. But that said, the first offensive series for the Raiders, I mean, it's I was talking with Lance earlier. It's a Jekyll and Hyde defense. That defense looked like the Giants defense. It was 6 plays, 67 yards. Josh Jacobs, they looked like they could just do what they want against the Giants defense. And that to me was shocking as well. The Giants defense, they got beat up with the rush. They did not get to the passer. They made O'Connell look like a seasoned veteran. That to me, as bad as the injury to Daniel was, that to me was really depressing.
It may have been depressing, but it was also slightly understandable. Like they're missing Leonard Williams. I mean, Leonard Williams gets traded away. You're talking about trading away a Pro Bowl player in the middle of the defense, another guy that wreaks havoc. Now you can kind of focus more on Dexter Lawrence. You brought in guys to kind of shore up the run more than anything else. But they were only supposed to be spell players. They weren't supposed to be every down players. And I like Ashawn Robinson and Nacho, but Leonard Williams was supposed to be where they were hoping they were going to have a good season and try to figure out what to do with his contract after the season. When they trade him away, you got guys coming in now. They're good players. They want to be great players, but there's going to be a step down in talent. There's going to have to be somebody who's going to step in to try to make up that production that Leonard had in the game, that energy, that motor, that penetration, all the stuff that Leonard was bringing. Now you got 3 or 4 guys that are going to try to step in there to bring it, but bringing it, they'd all have to be in there at the same time on top of each other to get the same kind of production almost.
Yeah, well,
Well, Leonard played. Go ahead, Russ. Yeah.
no, I agree. It was a step down. It was a couple of steps down. It just did not look right. No question about it. Leo not being there is definitely a big minus, on that defensive line. It just, the defense just looked out of sorts. Even at times, I said it reared its ugly head. Some poor tackling. We hadn't seen that for a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden, it came out again. It just was. It was a very discouraging game from a Giants perspective for everybody involved, and I'm sure the fans felt the same way.
Yeah.
Well, to Howard's point, Leonard Williams, I was just going to say, Howard played well over 70% of the snaps this season on defense. That's second most among defensive linemen. So you're right. It does change the dynamics. Even though they have rotated personnel, he's been on the field more often than not than everyone else. And what I think you were tapping into, and this ties into what Russ said, when you can't stop the run, it's very hard then to start getting after the quarterback. And in the last few games, if you notice, guys, the Giants have done an effective job containing the run games. Washington and the Jets, Breece Hall had the catch and run. He didn't do much of anything on the ground. Damage-wise, Josh Jacobs, 5-yard runs, 6-yard runs. Chunk plays, all of a sudden, favorable third downs. You can't all of a sudden pin your ears back and disrupt the rookie quarterback. So I thought that was a big difference as to why we saw no sacks and 1 quarterback hit. And that's why, to Russ's point, Howard, Aiden O'Connell was not put in a precarious spot where A, he had to play from behind, and B, the down and distance was against him from start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, I get all that. Like I said again, like you got to have the right guys in there. That this is like kind of what the offensive line was like before. When you don't have everybody you're supposed to have or everybody you thought you were going to have, you look different, and they look different without Leonard. It's going to be a big adjustment. I think they've tried to address it probably in practice. They probably thought they had a handle on it. They understood that Antonio Pierce was going to run the ball and have his guys run the ball a lot because he's going to try to protect his quarterback. That's the only way to like kind of get things going. And they came in knowing that and knowing that Josh Jacobs is not just any running back. He's like the leading rusher of the league. So, he does with a little bit of everything. He does it with some power. He does it with speed. He does it with some shiftiness. So he's a really good back. So if you're knowing all of that, it's all hands on deck and everybody gets to get to him. I thought that the Banks for the first time kind of showed like a little bit of a rookie moment. He wasn't his normal hand in the chest and then turning and carrying guys down the field. Which was, a little disheartening for him. I'm pretty sure he'll be wanting to get back. You lose Adoree Jackson in the game to a concussion, so it gives more room. You're playing against one of the top receivers in the league, and you kind of have to you can't just say like, oh, we're going to bring the house every time, because if you do, that guy's going to light you up, because all you do is throw the ball up and he'll go get it in Adams. So I don't really know what the answer is going to be in a situation like that. Now, you get this week, you go against Dallas. They don't have the same kind of big, powerful running game, but they do have a guy that's a home run hitter. So you're going to have to get to him, rally to him quick, and get him down to the ground. That's what they're going to have to do with Dallas and make Dak be the only reason that the Cowboys have a chance. But if they don't do it that way, it could be another long day.
Well, Dallas also, I would say, stresses you out with the receiver position much more than the Raiders in terms of their depth and their versatility. But I actually thought the Giants did a good job not allowing Davante Adams to damage the game. The problem was you had other players not named Davante Adams that came to life. For example, you brought up Deonte Banks, Trey Turner, who is not a household name for the Raiders. He gets that 50-yard catch down the field. He beat Banks up the right sideline. Then you saw plays from Hunter Renfrow early in the game. They got him more involved. And that shouldn't surprise anyone because, Howard, you brought up Antonio Pierce. You figured the coaching staff was going to maybe tap into some different personnel that may have not been utilized as much under the old regime. So it was a combination of that, and it was a combination of a new play caller going in a little bit of a different direction compared to what we saw in previous games.
Well, I told people this before the game. They were asking me what they think was going to happen. I said it's simple. They're going to go back to week one of training camp installations. They're going to look at everything, and they're going to start playing from there because that's the stuff that everyone knows, which means that all the players that would have been playing at week one, okay, you guys are kind of the starters. We're going to work with you. Okay, we're calling you guys back. Let's go. All the stars get in place, and we work from there. We want everybody to have an opportunity. We want everybody to, but our objective is just to win games. And if our objective is just to win games, we're going to go back to the stuff that we know first, and we'll expand as we go. And that's how you call plays when you're quote unquote an interim coach or even an interim OC. You start from the basics and you grow out. And they went basic run. That's what they did right off the bat. Sweep right, sweep left, off tackle right, off tackle left, and up the middle a couple times. And then it started to work, especially the outside plays, because if you don't get to them early, Jacobs has enough speed to, put some damaging yards on you.
Guys, we're spending a lot of time, justifiably so, talking about the defense. But listen, we did have guys back on the offensive line that were missing. We got Andrew Thomas back. We got Evan Neal back. We also had 8 more sacks of a Giants quarterback. Now, in fairness,
no offense, Rush. No, you really didn't. Think about this. Daniel Jones fell twice. That eliminates 2 of your sacks right away. DeVito ran out of bounds once, and I think Daniel ran out of bounds once. So 4 of the sacks were guys just running out of bounds. They could have threw the ball away.
Well, fair enough. I was going to say, and some of it, listen, Tommy is a third string quarterback. He's up from the practice squad. So there were times where maybe, as Howard says, he could have thrown the ball away. He had some quick feet, maybe took the sack too easily or just ran into it. But the question now remains, where do they go from here with the quarterback situation? I mean, who's going to be your quarterback for the rest of the year? And, listen, it's not outlandish to say, can the Giants win another game this season?
No, it's not outlandish to say. I think that's a real concern. I think Daniel added an element to the game, running the ball that other guys don't really have. I think even Tyrod has a little bit of the run the ball. I think DeVito was trying to show that he had some of that in him, but they're going to be cautioning him against running because there's really nobody behind him except for Matt Barkley. And he just got to town. So they're going to be trying to figure out ways to get things done. I think that what you're going to see, they're going to probably evolve into rolling right, rolling left, trying to give him some space, but cutting off half the field and making sure the receivers give them a chance to get open, or he'll try to run it or throw it around. It'll be more of the RPO thing, but without him running so much. He threw the ball fairly well when he was throwing it, especially in the intermediate routes. The deep ball kind of got away from him a couple times, but he looked decent enough from the first time he was in to this time. I think if he gets another time, unfortunately, he has this time to go against the Cowboys, and they're going to be bringing everything they can. The only concerning thing about the offensive line I kind of saw was that I saw them at the end of the game. I saw Evan Neal go down, and he didn't really get back up. They took him off the sideline, so that would be concerning because he was having a pretty decent game himself. I just that ankle just never really got all the way back. I'm assuming.
No, this was the other ankle, Howard.
Yeah, correct. This is the left.
The other ankle?
Yeah, this is the
right
other
initially.
ankle, Howard. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a different ankle.
In fact, Evans said, it feels like it felt with the other ankle. So, I mean, now we got a guy playing on 2 bum ankles, if he can come back and play. I'm saying this week, which who knows?
Well, he was long-armed and he stumbled backwards if you go back to the replay, and that's how he injured his ankle. So he's a question mark moving forward. Now, granted, they're a little bit healthier depth-wise on the line. So if Evan
Mhm.
can't play, they can now turn to some guys that previously started who now are serving as the sixth and the seventh offensive lineman. But to Howard's point, Dallas is cut from a very different cloth than the Raiders in terms of the personnel they have up front. It's one thing to deal with Max Crosby. It's another thing to have to deal with Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, and several other guys, which we saw back in week one. But I want to go back to Russ's question about the quarterback dynamics moving forward. The good news, at least, is Tyrod Taylor's on injured reserve, but there is no indication that he's done for the season. So I think if everything goes according to plan, guys, with his rib injury and his recovery, after the bye is done, Tyrod Taylor could very well be back out on the field and reclaim the starting job. And you have a veteran that knows the offense, that has that mobility factor that Howard was talking about. It's more of a matter to me right now, and this is just my personal opinion, the next 3 games, how they navigate that, assuming Daniel is sidelined for the season. You've got Tommy DeVito, who obviously has comfort with the offense, and you assume will get more and more comfortable. And they did bring in Matt Barkley, who was with Brian Dable in Buffalo, so he's been exposed to the offense. Are you at the point where he has been acclimated enough to what they're running with the Giants and Mike Kafka's influence that if you want to go with a more polished veteran, do you hand the reins over to him, knowing what Howard was talking about? Dallas is going to bring the house, and maybe you're a little bit more comfortable with him as opposed to Tommy DeVito. I think that's at least a conversation that they could very well entertain this week.
So now
Well,
so last week you were saying that a quarterback couldn't come in and learn the offense in a week. Now it's been a week, going into a second week. You're like, well, we got to put him in.
Well, no. Hold on, Howard. No. Let me clarify. You're not going to pin me against the wall here, okay? You asked me, okay? Yeah, you go ahead and laugh. Let's review, okay? We'll go back to the tape like Warner Wolf, okay? If you asked me what I said, you said, how many quarterbacks are out there on the market? I said very few, but I said Matt Barkley's out there, and I said Barkley is an exception because he was exposed to this offense. So if anyone can come in relatively soon and get adjusted, he would be the exception to the rule. And who did they wind up bringing in? They brought in Matt Barkley. So that's my
and
defense here, okay? The
so,
defense
uh,
rests. I'll allow the prosecution to speak again.
but only just so you know, in the league this week, a player came in on a Tuesday, got thrown into the game because the starting quarterback got hurt and won the
Joshua
game.
Dobbs. Correct.
Yeah.
Well, and Dobbs is a veteran who has had some starting experience and has been in the league for many different years. Very different than Tommy DeVito being thrown
No,
in
we were
to the
talking
mix.
about bringing somebody in off the street that was a veteran that could they come in and do it. You said it's impossible to do. I'm like, no, it's not.
Well, but once again, based on who was out on the market, Dobbs wasn't out on the market, Howard. They acquired him via trade. Let's not
They
forget about
traded
that.
for him. Yeah, I said they
Correct. Yeah.
traded for him because I said the Giants that the injury would have cost, even though Daniel came back, would have been a trade moment. They would have to trade to get somebody.
well, listen, guys. Regardless, the point being what Lance just said. So let's say he comes back after the bye. Is Tyrod Taylor? They got 3 games coming up. It's Dallas, it's the Commanders, it's the Patriots. I mean,
Yep.
if they lose all 3, you're 2-10 going in, and then Tyrod comes back. What are we dealing with here?
But I
It's a
think now
bleak
it's more about them
situation.
getting. Well, I think now it's more about not to the fans on here. I think now it's more about trying to evaluate some of your players to see
Yes,
what you can get
I
out of
know.
them. I don't think it's so much, you know, you like to go into every game thinking, oh, we got a chance for the playoffs. Oh, we got a chance. We got a chance. Once everyone started getting hurt, and I didn't know if everyone's going to get back. They got everybody back, and then Daniel goes down. It's not a bleak situation. Just like, okay, now we're gonna get to evaluate some guys. Some guys are gonna get some chances on this team to make some money, to cement their place on the team. Some guys are gonna get some more playing time. They're gonna try to get creative. It's gonna give these receivers on the outside some chances to like, hey, look, we need to work on getting open regardless of what the coverage is, what if it's press, if whatever it is. We want to make sure we're beating guys off the line, and let's really focus on doing this. So now it's a prolonged a camp, so to speak, so they can get better along the way, so they'll be prepared for more prepared or better prepared for next year. You can't. Every season doesn't come out to the playoffs. and I would love for it to. I had reservations about this season because of the schedule. Like I said, we're going to play more teams this year that were looking to be not just in the playoffs, but go to the Super Bowl, as opposed to last year, just playing teams that were like, okay, hopefully we can get a chance to win our division. So they got the best of the league this year, and it showed. Like, if you're not healthy and you're not ready, you're not ready.
Well, I was just going to add, yeah, it became a perfect storm, if you will, this season, Howard. They played much better teams, and they were decimated by injuries. So that combination really put them on their backs real fast.
Mhm.
Well, and I think you also guys need to take into consideration the manner in which they won games last season too. Let's not forget about that. They weren't winning by 20 to 30 points a game. And I'm not saying everybody's doing that across the NFL, but how many games do you go back to last season where they don't make a defensive stop on the very last play of the game? A few of those wins could have easily been losses. That was the fine line that they walked. Hey, they don't have to make excuses. The record is what the record is. But the bottom line is they were walking that tightrope, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And now, unfortunately, what we're seeing this season is the tightrope is not around much because there have been a handful of lopsided affairs. And that goes back to, Russ, you mentioned it's been a perfect storm. Unfortunately, part of this perfect storm has been they've dug themselves in early holes. And this team is not built to find a way out of those holes. For example, this was the third time they trailed by at least 20 points while being shut out at the break. We saw it against Dallas in week 1. We saw it in week 2 against Arizona. Now, they rallied against Arizona, but Russ, in fairness, that was more of the outlier than the norm compared to what we've seen this season.
No, and I'd agree with that. I think now moving forward, Howard, you can agree or disagree. I think you will agree that you don't want to put it on one side, but it's incumbent upon the defense, especially early on, not to allow the Giants to get into a big hole, because the Giant offense, there's just not enough artillery right now at the quarterback position in particular to dig themselves out of a big hole offensively. So they got to play it tight and close to the vest as much as possible.
I know, but look, you got to start to run your offense. You know that you want to run the ball. Barkley's going to have to try to go out and try to win some of that incentive money that they gave him for the rest of the season, which I don't know if he can with all the games he missed. I think, like I said, the receivers that are playing, they're going to pick it up a little bit. I think Cager is going to get an opportunity here to go out and do some of the Waller type routes and get himself involved in the game from an offensive standpoint. You saw Bellinger; he looks good and strong, making plays when the ball's in the air to him. He's looking pretty good blocking as well. He's going to increase that as he goes. Whoever's going to get to play right tackle is going to have to kind of mesh with the other 4 guys. The other 4 guys are going to play just a little bit better. I think the Pugh being there from an offensive standpoint helps that offensive line out a lot with camaraderie, getting together and making them want to do a little bit more. They're going to have to sit down with DeVito this week and go like, hey, let's go over stuff you like. Because Dallas is not going to sit there and blitz him every time. They're going to run some twists and everything. And those twists didn't really work this last game. But if they have to bring the blitz was going to get there. And it's going to get there just because he just doesn't have the experience to pick it up. But that's what really got to him for the actual sack that they gave up. The 2 sacks they gave up were blitzes. Then that's how they got to the quarterback. He just didn't see it coming. So if they can figure that out by Thursday or Friday, then that can give them a little more encouragement. The big thing with them is that you're going to be playing against the A-flight team. They can't afford to lose another game. They can't afford to give up another inch, and they're front runners. So if the defense can find a way to, if Dallas is going to try to run the ball, or if they make Dallas one-dimensional and slow them down a little bit, they're front runners. If the Giants get a field goal on them, it kind of bothers them a little bit. So you do whatever you can to, be the team that you want to be, but realizing that you're without your top gun at the quarterback.
Yeah, and what the Giants can't do is what they did a couple of times yesterday is shoot themselves in the foot. 4th and 1, 4th and inches, pre-snap penalties. That'll get you every time, and it got them yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they had 2 false starts. Yeah.
Yeah, they had
Yeah,
two false
yeah, that's
starts.
what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, they're everybody's back on the line and trying to get it done, but and like you guys, your famous tush push did not work again yesterday, so not really sure where they're going to go with that from this point on.
Yeah, that tush push is becoming a pain in my tush. I'll tell you that. I mean, I don't want to hear how good it works for the Eagles, but thus far, it's not working for the Giants.
Not at all. They don't have the same personnel, so it doesn't look the same.
Yeah, especially the offensive line up front for Philadelphia. That makes a big difference. And, the quarterback, too, and Jalen Hurts and how he meshes with that group that Howard was talking about. So you had Evan Neal and you had Daniel Bellinger with those two false starts that Russ was hitting on. I want to go back to Russ's point because I would agree with Russ. I think the Giants are in a position right now where there's a lot more pressure on the defense, Howard. Whether that's warranted or not is a whole other debate, but there is pressure on them. But I think if the Giants are going to make some inroads, we could sit here and we can analyze the defense all we want. Even if the defense holds the Raiders, let's say, in a hypothetical world to 21 points, can the Giants offense get to 21? And I think that's a reasonable question. Guys, yesterday was the 8th time in 9 games the Giants scored less than 20 points. In 5 of these 9 games, they have scored 10 points or less. It's been the trend. They have the last scoring offense in the NFL. They're 32nd with just over 11 points per game. So as much as I want to say the offense and the defense need to mesh better, even if the defense lends a helping hand, I don't know if I've seen anything at this point, no matter who we want to talk about with the game of musical chairs at quarterback, that you believe the Giants can go out and consistently get into that 20 to 25 point category, Howard, regardless of who they're playing. And Russ, if you want to jump in on that.
No, I mean, realistically, guys, and I don't want to, I don't want to demean Tommy DeVito. Okay. I really don't want to do that. But I mean, how many points can you expect with DeVito right now? Maybe a couple of games down the road, but still, trying to find a comfort zone. I think looking for 20, 21 points is kind of looking for a lot right now from DeVito guiding the offense.
I don't know about 20, 21 points. I don't know if the point is fair. I think it's more of trying to do something positive with the offense. If you can get, they had a couple really good drives. They got the ball down the field. You got to have comfortable plays when you get across the 50. Know what you guys like the best. How we can get it called. If they keep blocking it up, he's going to have to release the ball a little sooner. I think that DeVito. I don't know what he's looking at or what he's doing. I saw on the sideline Tyrod trying to talk to him to calm him down. And once Tyrod had spoken to him a couple of times, he started to complete some passes. So I think that was a promising thing, seeing him complete passes. The problem's not just been with DeVito, it's been with Tyrod, it's been with Daniel and everyone. Is once they get past past the 50 or to the 40, things start to break down, and you got to have everybody operating on the same level. And I don't mean extraordinary plays. I mean just make basic plays. The interception, the second interception that DeVito throws, the ball bounces off Slayton's hands.
Yeah.
Yep.
Off his chest, actually, and they get an interception. Hobbs had a chance to keep a drive alive. Hodge had a chance to keep a drive alive. Makes a catch. They didn't really punch it out, just kind of a hit, and he bobbled the ball. You just got to do the things that you can do, the things that are expected of you. You just got to make the regular plays. If you make regular plays, the games will be reasonable. If you don't make the regular plays, you're gonna be looking at craziness for the rest of the year. So I think that Coach Daboll is going to be more focused on, from an offensive standpoint, hey, what can we do that's productive? And how can we make things better for him? They'll be looking at rolling DeVito and to the right or to the left, trying to give him some room. Those receivers are going to have to be on their P's and Q's on the outside and how they get open, how quickly they get open. And the guys coming from the backside, I got to give him some options when he's scrambling. The scramble rule is going to be a big thing for the team going forward, because not so much because the line isn't blocking, but because he's taking his first look, maybe his second look, but then he starts to move around if he sees any color in front of him flashing. So they're going to have to calm him down first. The receivers, Hyde is looking for any opportunity he can to get the ball. Slayton probably is like one of the more physical guys catching the ball. I think he's going to get some opportunities. It's a lot going to be dependent on Saquon and how much of a load can he take running the ball. And if you're going to try to protect your young quarterback, you're going to have to run the ball. When you run the ball, though, the offensive line plays better.
Without a doubt. And they were showing some positive signs in running the ball early. If you go back to when Barkley and Jones were in, the problem is, and I think this is what you were hitting on, when you get past the 50 or you get in midfield, you short circuit yourselves, the penalties, the lack of explosive plays, the drives start getting into the 8-play, 9-play territory. Something is bound to happen that's negative. We've talked about this. You need the explosive plays because you can't go up and down the field regularly. On a quick side note, Howard, I think if you go back and you watch, if we're talking about the same play, Amik Robertson, the Raiders corner, I thought he actually got a hand in on Isaiah Hodgins and punched the ball out. So you got to give maybe the defense a little bit more credit on that one as opposed to Isaiah dropping. And I don't know if I'd classify it that way.
I didn't say he dropped it. I said it was just a hit on him that he's got to be able to hold on to the ball. Is what I would say. I wasn't saying he dropped him. I didn't say he dropped it.
I would agree with that. It was it got hit, but you want to know what it got hit? It was there. It was there. It looked like a first down, and you saw Hodgins laying on his face, like banging his hands. Sure. He knew he knew it was a mess. Listen, when you talk about getting past the 50, the problems, having Waller out for the next 3 games anyway, that doesn't help either. So what the Giants are now limited. They're not good enough to overcome a lot of mistakes. So whether they can beat somebody or play with somebody is one thing. But if you're going to make mistakes, they're not strong enough to overcome those mistakes. They can't be dealing with self-inflicted wounds.
Well, they haven't been strong enough to overcome mistakes the whole season. So, yeah.
No, but I mean, I think Russ's larger point is, and this is what I was alluding to and emphasizing, is it's almost at the point where you need to have that perfect performance, Howard. And that's just, it's unrealistic. Meaning, for example, before I let you jump in, Howard, we've been talking about both facets of the team, and you mentioned the absence of Leonard Williams, and I'm with you. But they didn't have any sacks or any takeaways on defense yesterday, okay? They needed that, though. Whether it's fair or not, they needed to shorten the field for the offense. Maybe the defense even needed to score a touchdown to realistically say you can remain competitive in the game. Howard, I'm not talking about winning the game. I'm talking about staying within striking distance. And I know, okay, I'm not saying that is realistic to ask for a defense to do that every week, but those are the types of things we're looking at in order to overcome what Russ was talking about, how they go in, essentially, for the lack of a better phrase, in a handicap position.
Well, listen, the quarterback didn't light it up. I know they didn't sack him a lot, but it wasn't like he was lighting it up. They just weren't in big time third down situations. They weren't in any 3rd and 8s and 3rd and 10s.
So he was comfortable.
He was comfortable. Yeah, because the running game was like they were getting 5 to 6 yards a carry. Once you get 5 to 6 yards a carry, your whole playbook is open to you. Your shot sheet. You can pick anything because it's like comfortable. You're getting in 3rd and 1s, maybe 3rd and 2s, probably. So 3rd and 4. Once the ball's thrown, the receiver that just turns around, he catches it. He doesn't have to make a move or anything. He just go down and he's got a first down. There was 1 or 2 plays where he had to actually make first downs, and they made them. The defense will have to be able to, going forward, they're going to have to stop the run totally. And then once they stop the run totally, then that whole pass rush can get started and get going. But if they don't stop the run, there's no pass rush to be had because you're focusing so hard on trying to get to the running back and not get to the quarterback.
Well, and the reason why I'm bringing up the elements on defense, Howard, is the Raiders came into the game yesterday. Okay, these were the 3 things that they had been haunted by, just to put things in perspective for the 2 of you. They had a turnover, at least 1 in every single game. They played clean football, did not turn over the ball against the Giants. They had yet to run for 100 yards as a team, not Josh Jacobs. As a team, they failed to run for at least 100 yards. They got over 100, $125. And then the last piece on the agenda, they had not scored more than 21 points in a single game. And they put 30 on the board. And that wasn't with assistance. Hold on, Howard. That wasn't with assistance of their defense. That all came via the offense. So those 3 things, Howard, had not occurred in all 8 games that the Raiders played. And then they all come to life against the Giants.
You're saying it like it was the Giants. It would have been anybody, unfortunately. And the reason why it would have been anybody was they had a universal upheaval of Josh. What's his name? The coach that was
Josh
there?
McDaniels. Yeah.
Josh McDaniels. They did everything they could. They had a free for all or something where they had every player get up and speak and airs grievances, and everyone aired their grievances to Josh in front of the ownership and everything, and it was crazy. And all of a sudden, Antonio Pierce gets up and talks about the path to victory, and that we always have a path to victory, right? So that's the message that they're having. That whatever message Josh was giving, they weren't receptive to, and it was hurting the team. Now all of a sudden you get a different message. Everybody believes in what's going on, and now this talent that they've had the whole time they get to use. So it wasn't the Giants; it was who was next. That could have happened to anybody because they were going to come out and run the ball and be determined to run the ball and get after it. So the Giants coming in, I heard a lot. Like I said again, I heard a lot about what do you think they're going to do? They're going to run the ball. They have the number one, the guy who led the league in rushing last year. They're going to run the ball. They're going to protect their young quarterback, and then they're going to protect him by running the ball first. You got one of the best receivers in the league standing out on one side. You got two really good tight ends, and a couple of other guys that can catch the ball as well. So you got a lot of talented people standing around him. If we run the ball, everything else is open, and they ran the ball well. So that would have happened to the Giants. That would have happened to, I hate to say it, the Cowboys. That would happen to anybody. They were determined to run it. They did a great job doing it.
Well, they definitely look like a different team. But Howard, the way you're talking, it sounds as if the Giants played the X-Men yesterday and Antonio Pierce got Wolverine to sharpen his claws. And all of a sudden they got superhero powers over the course of the last few days. I mean, come on here.
You can say it any way you want to. When something's bad in the system's bad. And you can see that it's bad. They came up with it. It's not like some people every once in a while. It's I hate to say it. I've seen it happen even with the Giants in my career. You have a guy in that everybody's like, oh my God. I've even seen guys. I watched the game one time. I won't say when and what year or whatever. But I saw one time where the defensive coordinator was calling the defense, and the players revolted and started calling the defense on their own. So, like, when I'm telling you this, and I know you like, it looks like when the players are together and they're organized and they have a great plan, they can execute the plan.
Well, yeah, I think we're also talking about a perfect storm. They rallied, the Raiders rallied around a new head coach. They were going to run the ball. They had that game plan. And, on the opposite side of the line or the opposite side of the field, you had a team that was missing, a big guy on defense. You also had a team that lost its quarterback, and you got to wonder how demoralizing that is. Not just in that game, but moving forward. I mean,
but you also had a team, Russ. Think about this: was watching tape of this team the entire time, and what did they see? They saw the stuff that Lance was talking about. If you're looking at the stuff that Lance is talking about, you're like, these guys are really bad. And your energy to play against them, no matter what, you're like, we're going to get better against these guys. This is going to be a win. And all of a sudden, they come out and start punching you in the mouth. You're like, wait a minute, this is not the same group of guys. Now you got to regroup and try to figure out what to do. And that's what they got. By the time they had controlled the run and started getting to them, it was a little late in the game.
Well, Giants need to do a whole lot of regrouping from now till Sunday. That's for sure.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. One other thing that I just want to get to wrap up our conversation and circle back to where we started. And I know everybody's still digesting perhaps the quarterback news that everybody's bracing for. But guys, if this doesn't further emphasize the luxury the Giants had with Eli Manning as the starting quarterback all those years, and he did not miss one game due to injury, I don't know what better spells things out. Because, I mean, this is not a shot against Daniel Jones, but Daniel now is going to have missed at least 2 games in every single season in which he's been the starting quarterback. And that goes back to 2019 when he replaced Eli Manning. So I think if there's ever an appropriate moment to go back to the archives and look back at what the Giants had with Eli for the fan base to further appreciate it, to me, it's now. Because unfortunately, with the exception of last season, Daniel Jones has not been able to stay on the field for an entire campaign. And we know, based on what we're talking about, that completely changes the dynamics of a team.
Yeah, but that said, Eli was then and this is now. And now we have Tommy DeVito at the helm until further notice.
Okay, and we'll leave it at that. Oh, well, unless Howard wants to add. Yes.
I'll go with this, Lance. I must have listened to 1,000 Giants fans talk about how bad Eli was and how, man, he's a little overrated. And, oh, wow. I'm like, really? Is this what you think? And like, nothing against Daniel. I used to tell him all the time, I'm like, there'll come a time, hopefully not soon, but there'll come a time you'll look back at Eli and you're like, wow, that dude was tough.
Hey,
Yeah, he
hey,
will.
hey, Howard, I'm sure you remember this because I remember your old coach, Bill Parcells, used to say to us sitting in the media, yeah, you guys, you guys one day are going to look back and say, that number 11, he was pretty good too. He was pretty good too.
Yeah,
Because, they were going after Sims also. No, you're right. But as I
yeah.
say, that was then and this is now. Ain't no Sims, ain't no Eli. Right now, it's Tommy DeVito.
No, hopefully he has a good one.
Hope so too.
Unfortunately, in life, sometimes you don't appreciate an individual until they're no longer in the picture. And that essentially was my point, given what Eli contributed to this franchise. All right, that is going to wrap up the latest edition of the Giants Hangout, our weekly roundtable discussion as we recap the previous game. Also, look ahead to developments with the team. Lance Meadow, Russ Salzberg, Howard Cross with you. Stay locked to Giants.com, the mobile app, and your favorite podcast platform for the latest right here on the Giants Hangout. Have a good one.